Let's go to Labor's unrealised gains, a super tax legislation they want to push through the parliament. It's getting more and more negative headlines as the days go on, and rightly so, because it goes against every principle of Australia's tax system. Today at Even United, former head of the Reserve Bank Phil Lowe and the former Treasury Secretary Ken Henry both declaring it a terrible idea. Joining me now to discuss it, former Treasury Assistant Secretary David Pearl. David, thank you. I want to get back to basics. I've spoken to my audience many times about how it works, but let's go a step further. Explain why this is such a radical proposal, a radical departure from all the other ways we tax.
Thanks for having me on, Peter. It's a radical departure for our income tax system, for our capital gains tax system. So normally the way that works is that you pay tax only when you sell the asset, whether it's a home, whether it's an investment property, whether it's shares, and you have the cash to remit to the ATO. The radical departure represented by this tax is that your tax liability arises from changes in the paper value of your asset as assessed by the ATO, and so you're stumped up to pay that tax without having any liquidity from the sale of that asset. And as people who are going to be hit by this have explained, if your asset is an illiquid one, you can't sell 10 or 15% of your house, you can't sell 10 or 15% of your farm, then you may have to borrow or sell other assets to pay it. So it is a radical departure. Now, we do have an unrealised regime in land tax, which is levied by the states, but that cuts in at a very high level and is typically 1 or 2%. And land values, as you would know, Peter, don't radically rise and fall. They tend to flatline or grow modestly. So this is a radical departure. And I was sitting at my desk in Treasury when this was announced, and I've worked in Treasury's tax area for part of my career. And I must confess, I thought this was an embarrassing mistake on part of my colleagues that this ever saw the light of day. I can't believe that Jim Chalmers bought this, and I can't believe that Treasury didn't shoot it down, because we would have shot it down in the past. And you don't have to believe me, listen to Ken Henry.
Yeah, I saw Ken Henry today, I saw Phil Lowe today. We've seen obviously all the industry super funds, or 3 or 4 of them out this week, saying it's crazy. Now, when you get that sort of coalition come together united in opposition to something, I think that's telling in itself. But you've got Gary Weaven on the other side. I mean, he's someone who's long been a sort of superannuation expert. He says just quick legislate it, basically legislate it before people wake up and realise what this is all about.
Well, that's pretty cynical from him. I mean, he's made a lot of money skimming a percentage from billions in superannuation that's effectively trapped, so I don't know if I'd attach much importance to that. But Jim Chalmers, this could be the beginning of the end for him, frankly. I know that sounds like a big claim, but his mentor, Wayne Swan, was ruined by a mining tax he didn't understand and couldn't argue for. I cannot believe that Jim Chalmers, who was Wayne Swan's press advisor, who's very good at his lines, but in my experience doesn't focus on the detail, for him to blandly say that this is not a major change defies belief. Nobody would argue with a variation in the rate paid by high balance superannuants on a realised basis. We could quibble about whether it was too high or too low, and I think that's the point Ken Henry's made. But this taxation of paper profits is a radical step for our income tax system, and I think it's going to snowball from here.